So today I want to talk about accounting. Which accounting did I actually study and what has been my journey? So I matriculated in 2010, and then in 2011 was my first year at Nelson Mandela University in Port Elizabeth. And as mentioned in previous videos, it was not an easy journey. I had to push through in order to get there. So my top three choices or what I wanted to study before I went to university was, it was Bachelor of Environmental Economics, and then it was Bachelor of Construction Economics or Industrial Engineering, something to that point. And then the third one was Bachelor of Accounting. So I already mentioned that I applied to 3 universities, the first one being Rhodes, the second one being Cape Town somewhere, and then the third one was NMU. And NMU was like last minute because I didn't want to go there. I wanted to go to Cape Town. Anywho, so I studied a Bachelor of Accounting at Nelson Mandela University, and it had 4 majors, if I can put it that way, or 4 broad areas, which was taxation, auditing, financial management, as well as financial accounting. And essentially that's what you find in the workplace if you study accounting or if you study any finance degree, is that others are specialized into those goals like financial management or financial accounting or auditing or taxation. However, if you look at a BCom accounting, it broadens. In fact, in first year, it's broad because they teach you about introduction to accounting, introduction to financial mathematics, introduction to. I'll actually link the course outline for the degree that I chose, and there's also an introduction to, they call it WRFC. It's all about computers and what you can do with computers, Excel, the works. And then towards the second and the third year, then they start narrowing it down to the 4 pillars that I mentioned, which is financial accounting, financial management, auditing, and taxation. So I did all 4 majors. However, I fell in love with management accounting, and I remember in my third year thinking, because I was still studying towards CASA, I still remember thinking, what could I possibly do as a CA that will not be financial accounting, because I was not a fan of financial accounting. And even when I think about my mom, story for another day. I studied my Bachelor of Accounting or BCom Accounting for Chartered Accountants, and I completed that. And the next qualification that I did was a postgraduate diploma in management accounting. So when I still thought I was going to pursue chartered accountancy, I was going to study a postgrad and then honors in accounting, because those were the requirements into CTA, and CTA is the first level for those who are studying towards becoming a chartered accountant. And yeah, there's various ways in which you can go about that. The point of this video really is to talk about what I have found in the workplace, from being an employee as well as to being a manager and a recruiter within my career space. And I want to focus more on the accounting space because that's where I work. So as mentioned, accounting is quite a broad subject. It's quite a broad field, let me put it that way. And as such, there are a lot of career opportunities, if I can put it that way, or career paths that one can follow. If you remember any prospectus that you've seen, any university prospectus that you've seen, whether it's online or physical, they will have the course outline and they will have the requirements to get into that qualification or that program. And then there's usually a part where it says possible careers that you can choose, and that's something that's meant to guide you as you are choosing what to study. And I speak about choosing what to study especially because it's January now, and there might be some university students or prospective university students that would like to study accounting. And another thing that prompted me to make the video is because I was scrolling through TikTok yesterday, and I found this lady that was talking about how she did an academic qualification, and as such her career options are limited. And also I want to touch on what the difference is between an academic qualification and a professional qualification. So simply put, an academic qualification is one that you would pursue if you still wanted to work in academia. What that means is you would study this qualification if you had prospects of either being a lecturer or a professor or a person that contributes to the academic profession. And then a professional qualification is one where you would actually be working in the industry or working in the field, where you look at things like project managers, accountants, engineers. Those are people that are working in the field. They might later on in life decide to contribute to academia, but in terms of their work experience, they are in the field doing the actual work that they studied. And if you think about Bachelor of Commerce or Become Accounting, and this one is professional qualification, because when you finish, you can actually go into the workplace and become an accountant and apply the knowledge that you have learned. So, experience as an employee when it comes to accounting. I started my career out as an intern in terms of actually practicing accounting. I started out as an intern in an accounting department or a management accounting department, and some of my roles included running reports for sales performance of the company, dividing it by products and looking at profitability, also looking at the balance sheet side, the stock that was there, work in progress stock, because this was sort of like a manufacturing enterprise, and the other one was headcount. So if you think about accounting and financial statements, usually the most prevalent careers, if I put it that way, the most prevalent careers have to do with elements of the financial statements. So if you think about financial accounting, those are the guys that are reporting what has happened. So they are reporting the income statement, they're reporting the balance sheet, they're reporting the cash flow. Then if you look at financial management or management accounting, they are looking at digging deeper into what makes up the income statement. So if you think about the income statement, it looks at sales. Sales is made up of different products that the company is selling. So a management accountant is more working on the process that makes up the sales. So they would look at what is the sales made up of, which products have been sold. They look at, I think one of the terms that they use is segment accounting. So we know companies in general. We know companies as companies that provide a service or provide goods. If you think about Apple, for example, they sell phones. A financial accountant at Apple is most likely looking at total sales for the entity, but a management accountant is looking at various segments. So they're looking at iPhones, they're looking at iPads, they're looking at MacBooks, they're looking at accessories, the different accessories. They look at how are we making these sales. Are we selling them on credit? Are we selling them cash? Are we renting them? Those kind of things. And also they look at the performance of each segment. So they'll say iPhones, how are iPhones performing? Sales year on year, sales quarter on quarter, sales this year versus last year. They also work very hand in hand with the operations. So they work with the sales departments, they work with the manufacturing department or the inventory department, they work with the credit department, they work with marketing departments, they work with human resources, and so forth. So management accounting is more on the operational side, and in some companies they call it operational finance or finance business partners. Then if we go back back to financial accounting side, that's where you also find taxation, and in some instances the internal control department. Those guys will look at compliance. If you think about internal audit, it's about providing assurance internally so that when the external auditors come through, they start there. Or like a third line, no, not third line, second line of defense. Yes, second line of defense in the company. What else am I missing? Yeah, I think I can end it there. There's a couple of resources that you can look at. I'll try and link a few diagrams that can help to make that decision. In the next video, I will talk about how to make an assessment based on the kind of person that you are, in terms of where you see yourself fitting from an accounting point of view, and also experience or some tips and tricks that I have learned in the other position now of being a manager and a recruiter.